Hello, bookworms. Welcome to The Best Book Ever, the podcast where we get to know interesting people by asking them about their favorite book. I'm your host, Julie Strauss, and today you just get me here for a very short housekeeping episode. Though it won't be all housekeeping, I do have some news about my favorite recent reads that I'm going to share with you at the end of the episode, so stick around to hear all the hot gossip about that. But first, I want to tell you about a couple of fun things that are going on over here at the Best Book Ever podcast. First up, I want to invite you to come on the show and tell me about your favorite book. I'm always looking for a diverse array of guests to talk books of all genres with me. And in case you're worried that you have to be an author to be on the show, or you have to be some kind of book scholar, or some kind of master reader, or whatever, I promise you none of that is necessary. No matter what kind of reader you are, no matter what genres you like to read, no matter if you read one book a year or 300 books a year, I would love to talk books with you. The interview process is not scary or intimidating. It's really just me and you on a Zoom chat, talking books and gossiping. If this sounds interesting to you, head on over to my new website, bestbookeverpodcast.substack.com. And right there at the top of the page, you'll see a link to be a guest where you can fill out a really simple form and tell me about the book that you're going to talk to me about. Now, the next thing I want to tell you about is that I have finally started a Best Book Ever podcast newsletter. This is something I've been wanting to do for ages, but I kept putting it off because, life. But I've wanted a better way to connect with you that is not necessarily social media. I mean, I do have an Instagram account at Best Book Ever Podcast. Go follow me if you haven't already. But the truth is, I'm kind of inconsistent over there. I go from ignoring it for weeks on end, and then I'll spend a week posting like a maniac. And I kind of can't find the right balance for my introverted soul because I don't know why. I'm kind of lazy, I guess. And I know there are lots of other socials, but honestly, I'm a little bored with them. And I just don't feel like learning how to do reels or TikToks or whatever. I would rather be reading. Now, don't get me wrong. I love seeing what you're doing on social media, particularly the book corners of social media, but I'm just not super into it for myself. But I wanted to start a newsletter where we could talk, you and I, and where you could talk to each other and other bookworms about what you love and what you don't love in the book world. But also, if you don't want to talk, you can just subscribe and get regular updates about what's going on here in the podcast. So that's what this is going to be. It's a weekly newsletter delivered right to your inbox on the day of the new episode, so every Monday, with pictures of the guests and links to all the books we discussed, and even some information from me about what I'm reading that week and the things that I'm into, sometimes serious things and sometimes shallow things. Life. And you may have noticed that on the podcast, I'm really careful not to say my real opinion of the books that I read with my guests, because that is just not the point of this show. I am totally not interested in arguing or debating or criticizing what my guests love. I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, you know what I mean? With the exception of episode 118, when I was very blunt with Tyler Foley, but he knew what was coming and he took it like a champ. Thank you very much, Tyler. You're the best. Anyway, in the newsletter, I will tell you the truth about what I'm reading on my own time. And I'll be really eager to hear your input and your suggestions as well. The cool thing is that on Substack, there's a way for you to financially support the podcast if you want. Everyone can subscribe to the newsletter. It's totally free. It will always be free because I love you book people and I just want to connect with you. But if you want to help me keep the lights on around here, there's a way you can subscribe for the low price of $5 a month or the discounted annual price of $50 a year. If you do that, you'll not only get the regular weekly email update, but you will also get a monthly themed book list curated by me. And I may be a total book hoarder in my own house, It's fine. There's still room to walk around, so it's fine. Don't worry about it. But I am an excellent curator of other people's book collections, if I do say so myself. So you can trust my excellent taste. If you're a super fan of the podcast, you also have the option of subscribing as a founding member. For $100, you not only get the weekly newsletter and the monthly curated book list, but you will also get a very loving personal thank you on the podcast and a Best Book Ever t-shirt sent right to your door. You can choose your size and your favorite color, and then you can wear it out in public, and everybody you see is going to be like, oh my gosh, I can tell you are so smart because you love books and you have excellent taste in podcasts and t-shirts. The t-shirts come from TeePublic, and they're the kind that get softer every time you wash them. The one I have on right this very minute is my favorite one. It's black. It has been washed so many times that it has been promoted into a sleep shirt, which means, yes, I am doing this in my pajamas. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But it also means that I need to order some more for when I leave the house to go to the library, obviously. Gotta wear that shirt. So, that's all for basic housekeeping. But I'm not going to leave you without providing some good book content. I am back in a good reading groove, and holy moly, I have read some great books lately, and I want to share some of the highlights with you. I recently listened to Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Y'all, I cried my eyes out at the end of this book. This is the story of William Shakespeare's family. He had a son named Hamnet. And although he's never once mentioned by name, so even if you're not a fan of Shakespeare or you're intimidated by the language, don't worry. This is historical fiction of the best kind. And it's the story of a family living through the plague years with really beautiful details and very finely drawn, real people. It's tragic, but it is also so full of love and so beautiful, and it is for sure going to be on my list of favorite books of the year. Highly recommend it. I have never read a book by Maggie O'Farrell that didn't knock me on my butt. She is so good. Next up, if you listen to episode 125, the kids' young adult episode, you may have heard my daughter Erin rave about The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Holy moly, y'all, this one is so good. And Erin was absolutely right. I did not see this twist coming. I knew throughout the book that something was off, and I kept texting her theories like, this is weird, right? This doesn't make sense, right? And all of my theories were off base. And then when the twist hit, it was one of those gasp out loud, holy hell kind of moments. I was listening on audio, which I think I've told you many times is my favorite way to read a thriller. And it worked exactly the way I love an audio thriller to work, because I was in the middle of just boring house chores and I froze in my tracks with the vacuum running, just my heart just pounding, just standing there like a fool going, oh my God. Now, I'm not going to tell you more because I don't want you to know anything going into this one. But trust me, it is worth it. Really a fun read. Another writer I absolutely love is Jane Harper. She's an Australian mystery writer, and her books are exactly what I look for in a mystery. They're exciting, but not gory, and complex, but not confusing, and always focused on the why and not necessarily the method. I put Jane Harper up there with Louise Penny, who is a Canadian mystery writer, and Tana French, who is an Irish mystery writer. And they're all sort of in that category of literary mysteries with really, really satisfying payoffs. So a few weeks ago, I read The Survivors by Jane Harper. And when I had a couple of chapters left to go, I told my family at dinner, I have this one figured out. I know exactly who did it. I know why they did it. And the funny thing is, I do that every single time I read a Jane Harper book, because every character is kind of a suspect, but I always think I'm smart enough to figure it out. And let me tell you, I have been wrong every single time. But then the actual murderer is revealed, and it's always like a slap my forehead kind of moment. Like, oh, obviously that's who did it. I can't believe I didn't see it. All of the pieces were in front of me. She is a master of the sleight of hand in her mysteries. It was really, really good. I recommend any of her books. I recommend them especially on audio. They are always so beautifully narrated. Now, in print books, last week I read a book called 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. And I tend to really like books about time management, and I'm always looking for methods to hack my time and get more done and all that other, capitalist nonsense. But this book is a lot more big picture. And it starts with the premise of we actually have very little time. About 4,000 weeks in life, if we're lucky. And we really need to think differently about our stupid to-do lists. Now, my guiding word of 2023, I pick a word of the year every year, and this year it is heal. And I mean that in every sense of the word. Physical and mental health, friendship, etc. And this book was just really, really good for me to read at this moment of my life and at this age, because it was a great reminder that the time that we have is precious and fleeting, and we should treat it as precious and fleeting. So, like on my to-do list now, it says smell the roses, dummy. Anyway, one final review. Now listen. Y'all know I would rather step on my own tongue than trash another writer. So I'm not going to name any names, but I am going to say that I recently read a certain very, very popular memoir by a very popular actor who survived many years of drug abuse. I will say, of course, I'm very happy that this person did not die from their addictions, and I wish them nothing but the best. But also, this particular actor is a total douche canoe, and the book was a waste of my precious evening. And also, if you come for Keanu Reeves, you can kiss my ass. The end, amen. Okay, one final recommendation for you this week before we say goodbye. My friend Jamie Couch helped me set up the new Substack newsletter and website, which you are at this very moment subscribing to, I'm sure. And I really think y'all would love what she does. She runs a site called letsreadnonfiction.com, and it is full of great information and book lists and book reviews, and they're all nonfiction. And I had lunch with her last week, and I was like, to be honest, I think nonfiction's kind of boring. And she straight up did that cracking her knuckles in the air thing, and she said, well, let me tell you. And proceeded to fill up my TBR list. And I have spent so many happy hours perusing her curated book lists and book reviews. And she has really, really expanded my reading life. So I want you to go check her out. Letsreadnonfiction.com. Show her some love. I know you will find something there that you want to read. Okay, my bookworm friends, that is it for this housekeeping episode of the Best Book Ever podcast. I will be back with you next week with a new guest talking about a new book. Please go sign up for my newsletter at bestbookeverpodcast.substack.com. All links are in the show notes, and I look forward to connecting with you over there. And as always, my friends, until next week, I will see you in the library.